What's up guys, welcome to Grease Rookie Garage. First off, I want to thank you guys for watching my previous video, which was a little different than what I normally do, where I designed a t-shirt for my Teespring shop. And of course, that's the same design that you just saw in the poster. One thing I didn't mention was the reason I did a different design like that was because I've been thinking about doing a giveaway, but I wanted to give away something that was a little bit more unique, not necessarily artsy, but kind of more artsy, that somebody could hang up or do something with. So, in the not too distant future, not this episode, but in the future here, not too distant future, I will be giving away this poster, the Mustang Madness poster. There it is in its entirety. So I will be giving this away to a viewer. I'm not doing it this episode, but I will be giving this away. That will be my first official giveaway. And really, I really want to thank you guys. You've all been awesome. I love the input that you guys give me, and I appreciate you guys so much. So I wanted to try to do something special for the first giveaway. So hopefully you guys are as excited about that as what I am. I can't wait to see this on somebody's wall. Hopefully whoever wins it sends me a picture and I get to check it out. Moving on, I want to point out that there are some areas of blown out audio in this particular episode. I'm not perfect, but I try. So with that being said, we're going to kick things off in this episode with me cutting out some metal in the wheel well to do the initial fitment of the driver's side trunk floor pan. So let's jump into it. Yeah, it took 30 years, but I learned to appreciate my lungs, so let's hope that in-game adjustment saves me some years on my life.
That would be swell.
And I suppose we ought to just go ahead and grind the rest of those spot welds off before we try to fit this thing in. No sense in getting lazy about it. And I gotta take that off too. Man, there's just lots of little things I gotta do. I guess I've been a slob. I told you guys, I read the comments, I take your advice. Everybody, well not everybody, but a lot of people said, get yourself an air chisel. That's the first I used it, and it certainly will not be the last. That will save me so much time. You guys are awesome. And it's fun, so it's a win-win. And not nearly as loud as I expected it to be. So, 100% not kidding you guys, the measurements for this right now, the way I have it in, match exactly with the old panel. It seems like this pan right here is a dead ringer replacement for the original. I'm really happy with that. So, honestly, at this point, I feel really spoiled. I think I've been very spoiled with this car. With the rust, the panels, the way all of my projects have gone so far, I've been really lucky. So let's just keep that rolling. Keep it rolling. Also, I almost forgot, check this out. I forgot I actually even had this at my parents' house from whenever I used to work on my Buick. And my dad reminded me I had it, and I went up and grabbed it, and this is gonna come in handy for sandblasting a lot of the smaller parts. But it's really awesome because when I got this home and opened it up for the first time, I just got hit with that smell of like musty garage that, you know, reminded me of whenever I used to work on cars. It's awesome. And we're back. It is now Thursday evening. I did some work Wednesday evening without filming, mostly because it was pretty labor intensive and I wanted to get it done. But I busted out the air chisel. Currently, as far as experience goes with the air chisel, I'm in like the Swiss cheese phase. I'm using the air chisel. It's gonna take a little bit of practice, but I'll get there. Anyway, what I did last night was I realized that I was going to need to, before I moved on to removing the wheel well, it was going to be a good idea to get this rear trunk brace removed and the new one installed. So, the rear trunk brace has been removed, and here's the new one, what came with the kit. And again, as far as this kit goes so far, the driver's side floor pan and this brace, the rear trunk brace, seem to be dead ringers for a match. So I'm happy with that. I'll let you know for sure whenever we go to put it in. But with the brace removed, we are definitely to a point now where we got some serious movement. Let's see how much I can lift up on this section. It's dropped a good bit. Now this section, this side over here is still intact. So the plan is to prep all the edges that need prepped with weld through primer, and I probably will at least tack weld the trunk brace in, because I'm going to need that structure and support to carry on the rest of the project. I'll probably weld in the rear trunk brace and then screw on the tail panel and hold off on welding that in permanently. So I'm going to try to get as much held together with sheet metal screws as I can before I have to weld. But as far as for support reasons and things, I'm going to try to get everything lined up so that I can at least weld in the new rear brace. I just realized this, and I don't know how I missed it, but she was definitely bumped in the rear end at one point, because we got a little ding here and it's bent out just a little bit. I'm going to have to hammer on that for a little bit to see if I can get that straightened out. I have the frame rail resting on cinder blocks here, so I can hit on this downward without worrying about shifting this around too much. It's actually not too bad there. Now I just need to hammer this in a little bit. Actually straighten that out significantly. I actually got to tap this up a little now. I'm sure this metal's stretched, so I'm not going to be able to get it perfect. But I want to tap this up just a little bit more so that the rear trunk brace can mount on that a little, be a little more flush when it goes on there. If we look at the one on the passenger side, which hasn't been hit, it is straight across the bottom and flush. So this area, I don't know how well you can see it, this bends upward a little bit, so I'm going to give it some love taps right here, and we'll probably be pretty much good to go to start welding to that. Just want to knock that up a little bit. I think we'll be golden. That is perfect. This is a little bent out, but like I said, the metal's got to be stretched, and I'm not going to fuss over that. This is not going to be a show quality car. It's going to be a go quality car. So as long as I can go in it, that's my end goal here. These strip discs I got from Harbor Freight. You can get these at Walmart or Harbor Freight. The ones at Harbor Freight, if you're looking local, I'm sure you can get them other places. The ones from Harbor Freight have this bolt on them that holds them tight. These things are junk, FYI. Do not get these kind. In fact, I will put a link into the description to better ones, in case you need to know. Alright guys, we are back. It is Monday night. Took a few nights off, and tonight I'm going to start out by, I guess you could say, dry fitting the trunk floor brace. So we're going to see how that fits and form a plan from there. No, you being a good girl? Are you being a good girl? Alright guys, so I already said that the rear trunk floor brace seems to be, at least by eye, a good replacement match. Let's try putting it in and seeing how it fits. This is going to be a challenge because we don't have the current support in. So this corner is hanging down, this is lower than it should be. Everything here is pushing down on this. So I might actually have to jack this up some for some help. I really think the problem is this tail panel. And this right here is exactly why I haven't been getting nearly as much done from week to week, because I'm dealing with little tiny things like this that just take up a lot of time. All right, so I ran into my first fitment issue with the rear trunk brace. I did get it installed up in the car, but when I had it in there, I noticed that my main hole, center hole, was off center. Now if I line the two up, I have the old one behind it, and get those holes lined up. It's pretty good over here on this side. Still a little bit of there's a little bit of the quarter panel on here, but this side is pretty close. So this side is pretty close. But if you come over to this side, it's hanging over by a decent amount. The edge or the lip lines up fine, but the folds to where they meet the quarter panel, this sticks out a good bit, which is pushing the hole off center. So I'm gonna have to knock that flat. I'll knock it flat flush with this, and I think that'll solve the issue. We'll see how that fits. All right, well that fixed the problem. Everything is lined up the way it should, and that wasn't much of a fitment issue, just the flange was bent out weird. Now that I know that I can get it in there right, I gotta pull it back out and prep all the surfaces for welding. I did finally go pick up weld through primer, so I'm prepared there. Basically, I need to clean up, sand on the inside of this tail panel, clean up the Swiss cheese, flatten this out, and then prep the surfaces on the brace, then get the thing fit back in and double check it before I weld it in. But I think I am gonna go ahead and weld this piece in because I need this to be sturdy and strong for building the rest of all this. So I think the rear trunk brace is gonna be the only thing that I weld in pretty solidly. Whew. But just for reference, it's going on 10 o'clock. So I've been out here for an hour and a half, and all I've accomplished was getting this thing dry fit. So, doesn't look like much. I think it's just gonna be baby step after baby step to get this thing done. We'll just keep grinding away at it. So on a side note, I've been in one of those moods where I'm doing probably the worst thing you could possibly be doing whenever you are working on a project car, and that is looking at other purchases in cars and projects. But I really want like a 67 or 68. What do you guys think? This one's a 289. It is an automatic. 3 owners, 3,800 bucks, Danville, Pennsylvania. Not too shabby. 3,800 seems, I don't know. What do you guys think? Throw it in the comments. That would be awesome. I don't know why I do this to myself. This is such a bad habit. I like that color too. Anywho, let's get back at it. I am sure that a good bit of this stuff is not going to line up perfectly. But, I mean, my approach to this is to get everything as close as I possibly can to the best of my ability and move forward and make adjustments with the other parts that don't fit as I go. Otherwise, like, I know for me personally, if I am aiming for perfection on this stuff, I will not move forward. I will not proceed because I don't necessarily think it can be done with these aftermarket parts. I might very well have to re-drill these holes once everything is welded in if the gas tank doesn't quite line up. I don't know. I might have to shift a quarter panel slightly over that way or a quarter panel slightly over this way. I do know, at least for me, if I am aiming for perfection or even close to perfection, I will lose my mind. Absolutely. So we'll see how this whole thing turns out. Stay tuned for that. Alright, so after about an hour and a half of work, the tail panel has been prepped. All I gotta do is get the weld through primer on it. All the surfaces on the car where I need to weld the rear trunk brace to have been prepped. The tail panel has been pretty well straightened out. I used the hammer and dolly for that. Areas that I felt like were somewhat stretched, I was pounding on with the waffle end to shrink it, and then smooth it out, I was using the flat end. And of course, I had my dolly behind it. Shout out again to John Everly for letting me borrow this set. It's an awesome set. He is the man. So all that work we just did took maybe an hour and a half, and while it wasn't the most fun, I mean, you could have easily wasted an hour and a half watching TV Cheetos. So, a good friend of mine loves to say time waits for no man, and it doesn't. So, if you got a project car, get out there and get working on it. Because in the grand scheme of things, it is fun. Try not to let it be stressful, I guess. Would be my advice, find the fun in it. And if you don't have a project car, go get one if you can. It's just my input. So before we start prepping this rear trunk brace for weld through primer, I want to test the coating that's on it to make sure it's suitable to be left on there and then painted over. And I learned from Barry at Joe Daddy's Garage that if you take paint thinner and apply it to this coating and rub it around for a little bit and it doesn't lift, which it's not lifting, this coating is okay. So if it does start lifting and you see the paint coming off, then you're going to have to strip the part off and reprime it. Epoxy prime it, whatever you want to do there. So it looks like in our case, we are good to go. We have been working on this episode for, I don't know, I think more than a week. Anyway, tonight we are finally going to start welding sheet metal back onto the Iron 6. I feel like this is a big milestone for me. I have the rear trunk brace in weld through primer. All the work we did the other night has been put into weld through primer. All the surfaces that needed coated have been coated in weld through primer. So we are prepped and ready to go. So to kick things off, what I'm gonna do is actually, I'm gonna strip some parts of the old trunk brace down to bare metal, cut some pieces off, and just get a few practice welds in on this. And then we will turn our attention to installing the rear trunk brace. I'll just sand this up and then I'll cut a few slits in it that'll leave basically little cuts there for me to weld up. And that'll give me some practice and get me feeling good. These are all okay, and keep in mind, I'm not going to be welding gaps this big, so I'm feeling pretty good. I feel like the settings are pretty good on the welder. Our penetration is good, so and I think we're about ready to rock and roll. All right, so we have the measurement now corrected. So this corner is sitting exactly where it was whenever I first started cutting the car apart. All of my reference points that I have match up. All of my measurements match up with the holes from the center line on this rear trunk brace. So this thing is, to the best of my knowledge, back in position as to where it was. Let's hope so. For now, I am just going to tack it in place in a few places so that I don't tack it too permanently in place, but I can move on with the rest of the build on this side of the car. Well guys, it is now Sunday, and I want this video to go up in a few hours. So a little bit has happened since that camera died, so I'll show you real quick where I'm at so I can get you guys updated. So spot welding in the driver's side of this brace went okay. As you can see, I did burn through in a few spots. I'm still trying to get my wits about me back into the welding, and spot welding has its challenges. The dynamic of welding and doing different welds is definitely has its challenges. I don't know, I can't explain it. Can't explain it right now, but anyway, this is in there good. That's holding, and there'll be several more spot welds in there when this thing's finished up, but that will hold for now. I don't even actually have the passenger side welded in yet because I want to show you how this stuff is fitting here on the inside before I tack that in. And it's only going to be tacked in again because I want to get all of this stuff fit up correctly before I start making things permanent. The long and short of it is with this stuff just laid in, everything is fitting okay, pretty good. It seems like we're going to be all right. I have this laid in, the floor pan laid in, and all of the measurements I have for that are lining up correctly at this point. And I laid in the gas tank to ensure that my holes for my screws lined up, and they all shifted around and you can get it lined up pretty good. It's nothing I'm concerned about. I did have it at one point where pretty much all the holes were lined up. So I think that's pretty good. Overall, things are starting to take shape. It feels good to start putting things back on the car as opposed to cutting them off. So progress is definitely being made out here, just at a much slower pace. As you guys know, I'm still learning, I'm new to this, but you know, I'm okay with it. I'm okay with what I have so far. When it comes time to start putting in permanent spot welds, I'll be, you know, more concerned about the perfection of everything. But that's it, that's all I have for this week. I really wanted to get the progress up for you guys, and hopefully, you know, in the next video we accomplish a decent amount and this thing really starts taking shape. So as always, I appreciate you guys hanging out with me and tuning in and offering your feedback in the comments and giving me your guidance and wisdom. You guys are awesome. I can't say that enough. Remember, in the not too distant future, I will be doing a giveaway, so be looking for that. And until the next episode, guys, take care.